Salam everybody once again. Welcome to this yet another edition of our African journey. I want also to remember all those who are following us, liking and subscribing all through my socials and through my YouTube channel, Isaac Meiruri. Thank you for all the supports that we are receiving from different spectrums, and we can only say, may you be blessed for your good heart and the willingness to journey with us. Like I said, also go to the comment section and give your reaction where there is something that you feel needs to be corrected. Kindly have the liberty to do so, because I always believe that whatever is done out of will, it is always true and permanent. We are here to teach one another as we correct the errors of the histories that have been succeeded through many generations. And it is always said that a lie repeated many times, it always becomes a truth to some generation. But we want to thank everybody who in history went out of their way to record a fact that uplifted a certain people or a certain community for their posterity to seek and find the truth, and especially those who were non-Africans. So thank you for this, and I want to believe that these appreciations are going to reach you posthumously, because we are a people who believe in direct connection and communication with ancestors, and anybody who uplifted an African, whether you're white, Arab, Asiatic, you qualify to be an African ancestor. And this is the universality we are talking about, that we are promoting and we are moving towards. Last time we talked about Timbuktu as the heart and the mind of African history, and we talked about two scholars, one Arabic scholar, and the other one a French biblical exegist. And we talked about the 800 years of African subjugation that began in the 14th century. And this is where the history according to about Africans according to European slave traders and explorers, missionaries and imperial governments decided that they are going to write about us. They were in their right senses and within their rights to do so, but these information and these documentaries were meant for their audience back in Europe. So that was in order, because like I said, there has been a political, economical and cultural move to wipe out the history of Africans, and this was one of the scheme. And of course the audience back in Europe who received these materials from the explorers and the missionaries and colonial administrators and other merchants received this information and so that they can appreciate the work that is done by the compatriots back in the new lands, so that they can continue to give more in terms of taxes and in terms of goodwill sponsorships. Africa was known by Europe as early as the 9th century, and as a safe trade route and Europeans used to get most of their resources, like for example, raw materials, for example, gold, for example, ivory, and so on and so forth, through these trade routes. I want to talk about a trade route that was talked about by a scholar called Mana Eugenia Albert, an archaeologist at the Pompeu Fabra University in Barcelona. And this scholar talks about the Atlantic Ocean trade route that led from West Africa through Senegal to Britain. And also, the trade route went through a place called Kat Hadash, near the Maghreb, the Carthage, and it also went to as far as Cabago Nova in the southern Spain and in Rome. Now, this is a recent trade route, but Africa was also known as a food basket for Europeans, and both Asians and as well as Arabs. In the second century, before the conquest by Alexander, who is called the Great in Europe, they depended on the, 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 the Egyptian and the Carthaginian farming, who were known to have been very good agriculturalists in terms of wheat, barley, and rice. And one of the reasons that modern scholars have come to appreciate is that slavery had to take place because this agrarian technology was not yet in Europe. And so they needed expertise. And typical as it is, anybody who is in position of power or in control would like to have something that is favorable to them without any pay and without appreciating the person who is utilizing their skills to their advantage. And this is the reason why slave trade was rampant in Africa. There have been other slaves in Europe before Africans. There have been slaves from Asia. There have been slaves from the Arabia. There have been slaves amongst the Europeans because the European society created socio-economic classes way back. And so the poor were turned into slaves. And but African slavery was unique because of this agrarian technology. Like I said in our last episode, Africans are the only human race that moved from Stone Age through to Iron Age within a century. And again, when you come to modern history of Africa, we moved from Iron Age to Nuclear Age within another century. And so these prowess of Africans in terms of manual jobs and in terms of artistic way of thinking is really a very major economic and social capital that we continue to hold. Having said that about the trade routes, we will also appreciate that Africans have really transversed uh, this this earth, and when you find Africans in Australia in form of aboriginals, you find Africans in the Americas in terms of the black Indians, and especially in Europe. It is a pride that one has to take and abide with as a true the truth about Africans as the parents and the paterfamilias of the human race. In 800 BC, AD, another scholar, Ibn Hakal, talks about Ghana, and he talks about a wealthiest man ever to live in this earth was a king in Ghana, and he picks this up from his predecessor, Iba Dathian, and another scholar who had visited Ghana before. His name is Yusuf al-Talib. And in the publication, the Islama in the world today, or Islam in the world today, they talk of the people of Sijilmasa. And these people were thought or were worth around 42,000 dinars at this year in the 800 AD. And this was amazing and astonishing to them, thinking that they were coming to a primitive Africa, but they found that Africans had already known how to convert their resources into wealth and riches. And so this is very important for all of us to be able to realize that people like Al-Iraq in Afars, Khurasan, were noble men who would not have lied about the wealth that they found in Africa. They talked of checks, and they had traversed Africa right from Sudan, and they confirm that not only Europe that depended in the African agriculture and the agricultural produce, even themselves in Arabia, they looked up to Africa to fight poverty and hunger. And this is one thing that we will all want to appreciate, that even the skills that were developed in Africa were skills that were meant to uphold life, other than skills of dominating other races and killing them, subjugating them. For us, most of our skills really upheld life. Kwame Nkrumah, in support of all these, and he talks about an Africa having no impetus or any imperative of wanting to dominate others, one other than being the parent of the human race. An African is a natural being, and in this I want to say all humans are, but Africans have demonstrated this in how they live, because they live a life which is interdependent with nature. They have never destroyed nature to create the concrete jungle that we see today, called development or infrastructural development. They have never destroyed nature so that they can have they can process synthetic materials and goods for different services, but they have always extracted from nature, but in a way give it back through either byproducts or waste and so on and so forth, because I don't think Africans ever planted any tree in forests, but their forests were ever dense populated. Now, Kwame Nkrumah talks about this attitude, and he talks about two types of Africans: those who will appreciate the African history and those who are against, and especially during their time, during the struggle for colonial freedom. He talks about those who were in support of the colonialists saw the African struggle as a weakness and as a spoiler to what they were benefiting from. And so even now there are people who talk to me and they tell me that that this kind of history is not important to us. We should focus in what works. But what really works? If there's anything that works, it should never give rise to the many poor people who exist today. It should never give rise to the global warming that we are facing today. It should never give rise to very many artificial diseases that we see today, like the recent COVID-19 and so on and so forth. And so it is my hope and prayer that we shall continue to be strong, to be united as we walk this journey, and as we continue to give more facts about Africans. And I want to end at that. And please, like I always do, remind you, remember to uphold your identity and be a true African wherever you go. Be proud, lift up your face, and face the world with pride. Thank you and shukran for journeying with us.